you never heard of. Hey everybody, welcome to the Common Folk Podcast with Ben, Morgan, and Andy.
Welcome back to Common Folk.
The Common Folk Podcast.
Here we are.
That's right, that's right.
Summer's fully here. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I heard that on the radio the other day that summer really wasn't till like June. Mm-hmm. Was it 21st or something?
Yeah, now the days are
like,
getting shorter.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. But you're probably hot and heavy into broadcasting the games.
Yeah, the old baseball and College World Series just wrapped up.
True.
Here in Omaha. That was.
Did you go?
I didn't get down there. Just wouldn't line up for me.
Yeah.
But I followed it, and we talked about it every week, on WTL and stuff.
Did you?
Oh yeah. Yep. And
do people bet on those teams?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
So what was the? Yeah.
Did it play out the way people were expecting?
This humble brag, yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks ago, Jared actually called it. He had LSU as his best future play, and that was 2 weeks before they even made the tournament. They still had to win their super regional when we said on the broadcast, take LSU. They're the best future play right now. And then they did end up taking it down.
Wow.
What happened on that game too? Like, did that just blow things up at all, or
with Florida scoring 24 points to
Yeah.
4? I thought that what that did more than anything, it just really allowed Florida to flex, and it showcased how good the SEC is. Period. 8 of the 16 final teams that actually made the super regionals were all from the SEC. It's unfair at how good they're better at baseball. I'll make the argument they're better at baseball than they are at football.
Really?
You know what I mean? That's the national conversation, is how good Alabama and Georgia is in football. And they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think as a top to bottom as a conference, I think the SEC is better at baseball.
It was fun to watch. We went to a game.
Yeah, you guys went.
Yeah. That was fun. And we watched LSU, right?
we watched
Tennessee. No. Tennessee and...
What did we watch, Joel? Who did we watch?
It was Tennessee and LSU.
Yeah, that's what I
Tennessee,
thought.
okay.
It was
Yeah.
LSU. So that was fun, but I don't know. I just wondered how that panned out, like, for bets and stuff like that, if people were really betting on them to win the full thing.
It definitely seems like, from an outsider, not paying attention to all the things that you pay attention to, baseball and football for sure, it's Southern teams.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Well, they get to play 24/7, year-round and all that stuff, and I think that does make a difference. And you compile that with the population shift, over the last 20 years, people moving down south. So it's kind of a two-headed monster there, where you got a greater population, a bigger pool to choose from, and it's a more baseball-conducive area.
Okay.
So.
And it's like a snowball, because once they get going, they get more and more influence,
Right.
and more ability to attract
Right.
the top players from
Yeah.
around the country, and then it just, it just snowballs. It just gets bigger and bigger.
You're exactly right. And I don't know if the SEC or LSU meant to it kind of looked like a weird bragging point, but their Twitter account, LSU's University, tweeted out a day after the championship, their 3 main players that were on their national championship teams in football. Joe Burrow, who's the chick's name? This chick?
Oh, Angel Reese.
Angel Reese, pointing at the ring finger here. Her and their ace pitcher, this Paul Skis, they're all transfers. It's like, well, how neat is that? Like, you didn't even recruit these kids. You were just able to flex and say, hey, you want to play for something? You want to play in the SEC? So from Air Force, I forget where Angel came from. It was a good program. It was a good program. It was another D1. And then, of course, Joe Burrow from Ohio State. So, it's like you're saying, it is a snowball effect that's out of control.
I'm pretty sure Angel Reese was from Maryland.
You're right.
Sure.
You're right. You're exactly right. So a team that's always in the Final Four or vying for that in women's basketball.
I told him when they were playing and they were obviously going to win. I hate that point into the ring finger thing. I think that is so cocky. I hate anything cocky. How about you win? Then you can do it.
Yeah.
But even that, I hate that.
Oh boy, we're wading in deep waters. She's a racist. That's didn't you hear that narrative?
Oh, that's if you don't like that, you're racist.
It was okay when so and so did it, but when I do it, I mean, she came out with that argument before anyone even said that. It was hilarious.
God.
Talking about Angel Reese here.
I feel like we could do a whole episode on this, man.
Oh, yeah.
And just watching the games, which I love baseball. I love watching it.
Yeah.
You know, the showboating, the antics, the arms up in the air, the
Palms up at the umpires.
the bang in the chest, all the things, man. It's like some of it was just a little too much for me.
Yeah.
And what I noticed, there's so much more like fancy equipment. Like now we have sliding gloves. Like whatever happened back in the day, you just freaking slide. And now you have like a protectant for your ankle and like all this stuff. Like just get out there and play ball.
But the
boys.
thing about that, like they're throwing so fast, and
Were
you
they
don't want to
not
like break
20
like
years ago?
Well, they went like it was a little bit slower. It wasn't
Okay.
as fast.
Okay. Anyways, this isn't really what we're talking about today.
I mean,
It's kind of fun that we went down this path, though.
yeah,
For me.
and there's a lot to that. But we did an episode not too long ago talking about pride, and when it all came down to it, like when we closed it out, we talked about humble pride, and I think the best athletes, the best leaders, the best whatever it is, if you're at the top of your game, that's what you exhibit.
Right.
And that outwardly dancing around and stuff,
Yeah.
get out of here with it.
Yeah. And it's taken a weird twist where you got to do that stuff to promote yourself. And that's what this is a lot about. It's self-promotion and this and that. And I get it in like boxing and MMA, UFC, you got to get out there, you got to be zany and do all these things. And because that's part of the show, if you ask me, with boxing, is the pre-fight stuff and all that. But with baseball, like, it is kind of bizarre now. I agree with the let the kids be kids and have fun and celebrate, but celebrate with your teammates. I don't want to throw a kid out for doing a bat flip after a home run, but when you do a triple bat flip 10 feet in the air and you stare down the pitcher, like, get out
I
of
mean,
here.
that's too much. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well,
maybe someday we'll talk a little more about that.
Yeah. So what are we
good.
going to talk
But
about
for
today?
What I thought might be kind of fun, I was thinking back on video games when I was a kid, and we've got Joel here, our son. He's 12, will be 13 this year. Not too far from that, and a lot of that's changed. But what made me interested about it is that, like, video games are kind of a hot topic as far as, like, they influence kids, they influence bad behavior, all these kinds of things that you hear about. And I think back on when I played them, and what I realized was that there was actually a lot of things that I actually learned from video games,
Right.
that
Really?
that benefit me today. And I thought it would be fun to kind of talk to Joel about it a little bit too, to see like kind of what he's picking up on. So, first of all, let's.
You got a little bit of a cold over there.
I do.
Huh?
I've got a little frog in my throat. Let's introduce Joel. What's up, man? How you doing?
Good.
Hi,
Pretty
son.
Get a little closer to that mic there.
Or
Eat
pull
the
it to
mic.
you. Or just pull it to you.
So yeah, he was chiming in a little bit earlier, but what have you been up to today?
Nothing. Just got done with SAT camp, strength and conditioning. So, then I've just been.
And in between that and when we got here, what were you doing?
Oh, we bought fireworks.
There you go.
His favorite thing.
Yeah, but what about before that? What were you
Oh.
doing?
Oh, I was playing video games.
Oh.
I was going
Okay.
to say, man, he
All
teed
right.
you up.
All right.
I thought maybe he didn't today yet.
Yeah. So let's rewind a little bit to back in our day. I think I don't know if Morgan, you're gonna have much to add to this or
Yeah.
not, but it'd be interesting
No.
to kind of hear your perspective. And Andy, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but I'll touch on what I did. So I specifically remember I had to have been about maybe 8, maybe 9 years old, and the Nintendo Entertainment System came out. We could look up what year that was, but it had been close to 90.
The NES, the Nintendo
Yeah.
Entertainment.
Oh, like
The original.
just came out.
The original
System.
Nintendo, yeah.
Actually on Wikipedia, so I'll pull it up here pretty quick.
Yeah. So and what happened for me is one of my buddies got one. So we're over at their house. You unbox that thing. There's all these packages. I think it only came with one remote, but you could use a couple. So you had to go buy the second one or whatever. And we're sitting there playing that game. It came with Mario the original Mario, Mario Brothers. And then they started having different packages where it was like a combo of Mario and Duck Hunt.
With the zapper.
And you get the zapper gun. So we'd go over there and play that, man. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And my parents and probably my grandparents went out on a limb and ended up getting one for me. And then we played it.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of like what Joel's doing right now. We're in summer. We're not in school.
Yeah.
So it would be like summer, back at the house, middle of the day, whatever, playing a video game. But there was a lot of differences then in these video games than there is today. We didn't have the internet.
Right.
That was a completely different thing.
Yep.
So we're playing solo. We're playing the computer. That was always the challenge. You're playing against the computer.
Right. You want to beat the computer.
Yeah, in whatever the game might be.
And that dog that mocks you on Duck Hunt.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, that punk ass dog.
Yeah.
Yep.
When they stand up on 2 feet
And laugh at you. Yeah. See, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, so that would have been that would have been the first game that I had an experience with outside of arcade games, which is another thing too. But what about you? Do you remember?
Well, yeah. So 1983 is when the original NES came out.
83?
1983.
Oh.
Holy crap. So I would have been, so if I got that when I was 8, then that would have been 80.
So it was
The
6
system-
years old.
But
Might have
it
been close
launched.
to 90.
It launched in the United States in '85.
Okay.
So when it really hit the market in the United States for everyone was 1985, and
Isn't that
that was
close
with
enough?
that. Yeah, that was that with that original Mario. And yeah, my story is pretty much the same. The cool kid in our class got a Nintendo before everybody and had 2 or 3 games. So we'd always go over there, and it was the coolest. And it's all that me and my brother wanted for Christmas that year. Yeah, I forget if it was 1990 or 92, whatever that was. And I just remember I was so devastated because we opened all of our gifts from smallest to biggest,
Yeah.
and I kind of got out of order. I didn't open the one that Mom wanted me to open, this or that, and I thought it was the biggest, and it was actually a box to contain Nintendo games in. And I was like, oh man, Aunt Janet got us a box to hold these games. We don't even have a Nintendo. We don't even have games. And I just kept hammering on it, and I could just, now that I think back at it, I can just see my dad grinding his teeth, like, open the big one over there.
Yeah.
Just being a little shit. But then we did open that, and yeah, it was the greatest Christmas ever. Yeah, we had 2 or 3 really cool games. Tecmo Bowl was really big for us.
Yeah.
And that was actually, I have a vivid memory of that because all my friends could beat it and win the Super Bowl.
Oh.
And I couldn't. I wasn't as good as everybody, and I didn't get as a start as everybody. But John Elway for the Denver Broncos would always beat my ass in the playoffs, and he is the reason I got caught cussing. He beat me again in the playoffs, and upstairs in my room by myself, I go, shit.
And you got hurt.
And I just heard like whatever Mom and Dad were doing downstairs, it all just stopped and went silent. And Mom goes, "Did you just hear what he said?" And I'm like, "Oh no!" So yeah, I got to talking, doing all that stuff thanks to John Elway, 1985 Tecmo Bowl.
So I'm looking back on some of these things, and this is from the Smithsonian website.
Oh my God. We're talking it's that ancient.
Yeah, man. And they're talking about Nintendo.
We have some of this at home.
And they were saying something about it, like you said, 85, but something happened in 90. There was some copyright in 90, and I think maybe that's when it really hit. And it says here in the description that it came with a orange and gray zapper controller. Mine wasn't orange. Mine was before that. It was like,
oh yeah,
it was like dark gray and light gray.
That's what I'm looking at here on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So completely different thing. And then the other thing that reminds me when I'm looking at this is how you hooked the thing up. So, to your TV.
Yeah.
So, TVs today, everything's HDMI currently. We would have to hook this thing up to where the antenna would connect to the TV.
Right. Yep.
So then it came with this connector where you would put that into your TV, and then it had a separate connection on the back where you could put your antenna in too, so that you could watch, your 3, 6, 7,
right, your channels,
15,
over the airwaves.
42, whatever, if you wanted to. But then you could still play. And the thing had a switch on it where you could go to either like channel 3 or channel 4 or something like that, and that would be where you would see the Nintendo broadcasting on your TV.
Right.
So you'd have to play with that thing to figure out which one would work for
Really?
depending on the TV you were plugged into.
So it would be like input.
Yeah, basically.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
before input
Okay.
was, yeah.
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 Because that was literally the only input back then.
Yeah.
Was the coaxial screw-on
Okay.
connection.
Okay.
And then it kind of evolved into the 3-prong, and then you could go through your VCR. So, yeah, everything changes pretty
Yep.
quick. And
Yeah, we
Yep.
didn't really do
stuff.
any of that. There were just 3 girls at home, and we weren't maybe interested in it or what, but Dad didn't get it for us, and we didn't care.
It took a while for video games to target females.
Okay.
You know, I think it was just kind of a natural thing where boys are more interested in things and girls are more interested in people. And it took Nintendo and Sega Genesis and all of them a while to figure out, okay, how do we make a video game that is attractive,
Appealing,
appealing to women.
Huh.
So, but
Yeah,
they
that
did
makes
get
sense.
there. You know, they came out with Barbie video games and everything else.
It is interesting when you think about it that so many more boys were into it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you do have to wonder why. I mean, it definitely has something to do with what you said.
Yeah, it's a
I mean, the
personality
one
deal.
thing I do remember, I remember the gun thing, but I do remember there was like this running pad
Yeah,
that you
track
could
and
do
field.
like track and field. And I
Yep.
do remember doing that, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't remember if it had to have been out of friends. Again, we didn't own it. So
Right.
Oh, that
just
pad.
running so
Yeah.
fast, and then you would do
That
long
you'd
jump
cheat,
and you
wouldn't
would jump.
You'd get on your knees and use your hands, wouldn't you?
I remember
yeah,
that
you
thing.
did. I knew it.
That's the only thing I really remember because I was really good at it.
Yep.
Like I
Oh,
thought that was
nice.
fun. Yes,
Of course you were.
And then
Yeah.
I was good actually in real life's track.
Yep.
But
I remember that pad now that you say that.
yeah,
I never had one, but I remember
didn't?
a buddy that had one.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But as you said, everything changed and changed fast. NES kind of got lazy. Then Sega Genesis came out and kind of burst onto the scene.
Competitors show up.
Yep.
Sega pops up. Nintendo was doing different, like, next generations.
Yeah.
What would have been the next
Super
one?
Nintendo.
Super.
And we had that first Christmas.
Yep.
Like that was
Yep.
there was a no argument. Like for Christmas, we are getting the Super Nintendo. Like that has to happen.
Even if we get no other
Yeah,
presents, this
just-
is what we're getting.
That's all Shane and I wanted. Just
And
please.
I'll be honest, as a kid, playing regular Nintendo and then even playing Sega and then getting Super Nintendo or Nintendo 64 or whatever, playing the different ones that came out, I was super annoyed by the controllers.
What?
Like, I loved just a couple of buttons.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
And then when I had like 12 buttons to
Yeah.
pick from
Yep.
on whatever game I was playing, I started losing interest. I started being like, man, there's too much going on here.
Right, and then switching back and forth through all these different consoles. I was always called the oldest 22-year-old in college because everyone would be playing the new PlayStation 5 or whatever the hell is out. And I was just like, I'm not interested. You know, I played a few of the games. SOCOM was big. That was kind of the precursor to Call of Duty. I thought that was really fun. And that was also one of the first games that was mainstream where you'd get online through the console and basically play, a war game against another
So
group.
there's definitely an iteration, the introduction of the internet that I want to get into. Before we get into that, I want to go back to what we were talking about with Nintendo and the games and how they affected us. So for me, when I think back on like a Mario as an example, and we've experienced this lately, and I've tried to impress this on my son, and he's starting to kind of see some of it, is the game presented you essentially a challenge against yourself or the computer, so to speak.
Right.
But you had to figure out how to do all the things that were programmed into the game to get to the next level, to get to the next level, to get to the leader, to beat the leader, to get to the end until you beat the whole game. And that was the way they always were. And it was like the game was like a journey, you know what I mean? It was like a whole
Sure.
challenge. Like you would go do it, and then when you had to stop for the day, you would think about it like, man, okay, I wonder what I'm going to be presented with next. Like, I can't wait to get back to it and just keep achieving goals.
Right.
And for me, when I think back on all those things, it taught me a lot of really good life lessons in that regard in terms of stick with it, keep trying.
Yeah.
You get beat, you die. You have to figure out how to get more life. So you have to figure out a different way around this to beat this level or whatever. That persistence, that sticking with it, that kind of thing.
Right.
I didn't realize that at the time.
That's what I was just going to say to you. Not at the time. Obviously, you're not thinking about this.
Not at all, yeah.
It's taken some years.
But being older now and seeing a lot of the more modern games
Yeah.
where there isn't necessarily an end goal in terms of like you're building towards something. Because so much of them are just like you're actually playing against somebody, and that's what we'll get to with Joel. But it's like, oh, I won, I beat you, and then that's over. You're on to the next thing.
And I think there's something else that Ashley has noticed too. Those games back then were really hard. Like it took a lot. The first time you were to beat Super Mario Brothers or any of those Zelda, and that's a perfect. You're going on a journey, and you're gonna have to figure things out, and you're gonna have to be patient, and you're gonna have to try different things, and you're not gonna get it all done in one setting.
And you didn't have the internet to go cheat.
Well, kind
and
of.
tell you how to do it.
No,
We didn't have the internet. What we did have,
those magazines.
yes.
Oh, you had
So-
cheating magazines?
But you had to have, number one, you had to have money
didn't
to
use
buy them.
Okay.
And number two, you had to have your parents take you to wherever these things existed,
Like a Blockbuster.
so you could buy one.
Was it
and then,
weekly? Monthly?
I don't even know. There
You
would just
didn't
be
get 'em.
there would just be these magazines,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
you would get one, and you would just read through it, and you would figure out like cheat codes or
What?
secret areas in a
Okay.
game
Like
that
Contra always had a bunch of different codes.
Yep.
Up, down, left, right, that stuff.
A B select start, something like
Yeah.
that.
I did not know that even existed.
But yet that was where, and that made it even more fun too, because
Yeah.
like once you kind of got access to that, then we kind of change up the game a little bit. You might get special players like NBA Jam. We would do NBA
yeah.
Jam,
You could
and
do
you
the
could get
big
special
head people.
characters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you had the codes.
Well, some of those games were impossible to where you did have to use those codes. Battletoads. Like, you want to talk about a frustrating game? I mean, I was
That
very
was it.
select with some of the games that we played, but man, that would get on your nerves. And it's like, okay, fine, it'll never beat the snake level.
And I think that's another lesson as well that I learned when I think back on it. You talked about Contra. I loved Contra. That game was so much fun. I could never beat it. Once I got that cheat code and I got like 30 lives, I breezed through that
Oh yeah,
thing.
this is easy.
I get the big guns. I got 30 lives. I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm killing everything. I'm winning. And then when I got done, it was like, oh, the
Yeah.
game's over.
And
And
it's over.
and then I realized like I didn't really even earn it.
Right.
Like I got the cheat codes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that was a lot of. That's what I'm saying. Like there was all these lessons. One thing I want to touch on real quick. Joel? Have you been listening to us?
Yes.
Or are you zoning out?
So, what do you think about in the things that we're talking about? And currently, you are taking on what's the Mario game called?
Super Mario Odyssey.
Odyssey, yeah. And that is in the Nintendo Switch. Is the current gaming system.
Yes.
So the things that we were talking about were like, you're having to figure out ways through it and get to the next world and get to the next leader and figure out the tricks and those kinds of things. That's what that's like, right?
Yes. Yeah.
What do you think about that game compared to a lot of the other ones you play?
Well, kind of like what you said, like games taught you a lot. Well, it kind of taught me like problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would die like 10 times and then I was like, okay, what's something different I can try?
Right.
And then normally that would always work. So like not always plan A works. Sometimes it has to be a plan B.
Mm-hmm.
That has to do the trick. So yeah.
Totally.
So, what all games do you play right now? Give me your top 3.
Probably 2K23.
NBA 2K.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's definitely one of them. Black Ops 4, Call of Duty Black Ops 4.
There we go. Little COD.
And Fortnite.
Okay, so
I still play that game.
Fortnite. That's a great. I'm not. It's a huge thing. It's a cultural thing. I mean, there's lunch pails at Target of it.
Yeah.
What is the point of Fortnite? What are we trying to do?
So there's 100 people, and you jump out of. It's called like a battle bus, where you jump out of like a bus, and that's floating in the air. Then there's a
I'm with
ton
ya.
of like marks, like ton of places where you can land. You get all your guns, try to get the best guns. Then it's just all out war.
Okay, so it's like the Hunger Games.
So you,
In
want to be
weird
the,
outfits.
the last one standing. The last
But
one standing.
It's not like it kind of is like Call of Duty, but you can build to like protect yourself.
You can make alliances and stuff with people you don't know, or not really. Are you on
Well,
your
that's
own?
why there's duos and trios and squads. So 4 people can be on a team, 3 and 2 and by yourself.
Okay. Yeah, those type of games are fun. I mean, that's what SOCOM was for me, and that was a PlayStation 2, if I remember correctly.
And I feel like when I watch the Fortnite game, it's more cartoonish.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's not as realistic.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some realistic elements, but it's more of just kind of a fantasy type
Oh, yeah.
fun game.
Murder fantasy. I mean, we watch it all the time.
But I do like that they do, like he was talking about building. If someone's shooting at you, you can build. You have to be able to push the buttons right to throw up a wall, or you have but you have to have already gotten that and had that in your backpack to
Yeah.
be able to then use it. So there is some
wow.
problem solving there. Like
You
you,
mean
can't
you
just
need
get it
to-
last second. You got to
Wait
plan
a
ahead.
second. Yeah, you got to plan ahead. You got to be able to
Yeah.
defend yourself.
Right.
That's not the real world.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Right.
So I mean, maybe there's some problem solving in that one. I don't know.
Oh, I think totally there is. Yeah.
Well, I tried, like, it's not really a cheat, but what I did was I played a solos match, which is by yourself, and I tried to team with somebody that I could have killed. So, and someone reported me that I killed on my team, and so I got kicked out of the game.
Ah.
Oh man, see.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
So I was kind of on the same wavelength as you. It reminds me, all these memories now just come crashing back. I didn't play a lot of video games, especially in college. So when I did play, I would try and maximize. Like, I want to get the high scores. I want to beat some of these online guys that you could tell that you could see that they've put in the hours and they have X amount, thousands of kills, and I got like 10.
Yeah.
Right? So what I would always do is I would be one of the terrorists. I'd go on the terrorist side, and I would get the biggest, most obnoxious gun I could afford, and then I would run behind the hostages, and I would just shoot these guys as they would come into the door. So I was a total pain in their ass, and eventually, like a stud would figure it out. He'd throw in a distraction over there. I'd look over, and he'd be on top of me, and but I would get 2 or 3 guys.
Look at you.
So I don't think we were talking about the online, like the connection and all that. I don't really remember playing any games that were online that I was playing against other real people.
In college, you didn't. You took your system to college.
So
That's when we had Napster.
When I went to college, I don't remember how I got it, but I got a Dreamcast system.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Do you remember seeing that?
I remember of it. I never really played it.
So it was.
Wasn't it CDs?
It used CDs. I think it was the first one that did that, and it was the first one with a big controller, and it had these memory chips in the controller and all these kinds of things.
Yep.
But what was a funny story about that is, so all the games, they were all standalone games. We weren't connected to the internet. There was all kinds of games. You're doing whatever you're doing, and they were all, the graphics and everything were super cool. It was it was a great system. It was fun. We had a lot of fun in the dorms with it. And like Morgan mentioned, Napster and music pirating, people figured out how to pirate these games and put them on CDs.
Sure.
So we went to the University of Nebraska, and there would be like these forums, where people would talk on them or whatever, because we were connected on the internet, obviously, on our laptops.
Sure.
And we'd be talking about stuff. Well, there was these guys who would essentially burn these games, and you could buy these games from them, and it was like this really like sketchy deal. So we would pick the games that we would want. I'd pick like 4 or 5 of them or whatever. And then some dude would show up at my dorm, like full mask. I mean, all blacked out.
I don't even know that.
Knock on the door. Here's your games. And you'd give him the money, and then he'd leave. Like, you wouldn't even know who he was. It was
Right.
it was like super underground stuff. And these guys were that was when the games got, very computer. So they were hacking these things where like you had to take a CD and put it into the gaming system first and turn it on, and it would put the gaming system into like some kind of boot mode where it would accept their games, but then it wouldn't accept the ones that you buy from the store. It was like reprogramming it.
Right.
There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
But it was us figuring out ways to get more games, get more entertainment.
Sure.
Have fun.
And
with
it was way cheaper, obviously.
way cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah. Those were running about $40-$50 a pop.
Oh, yeah.
At the time.
All
those
day.
games.
Yep.
Yeah.
That broke college kid getting it for what, $5-10?
Yeah, for sure.
Give us an angle, yeah.
So so then the internet thing comes along and people start playing against each other. Well, let me rewind real quick. So one other thing I wanted to touch on that I learned from video games was I played a lot of racing games. Racing was like my favorite thing. And especially the games where you could build your vehicle how you wanted to build it. So, and that would be a journey. Like you couldn't just like build it how you wanted from go. You didn't have any money. You know, you had to go out and win a bunch of races, and then you get money, and then you could get different suspension and engine upgrades.
Nitrous
and,
packs.
Yeah, all these kinds of things.
All the-
That was something that when I look back on it, that was big for me because it did teach me that you have to put in the work, you have to put in the time, and then you can start getting these things, and then these things give you certain advantages out on the racetrack or whatever. Yeah. And I loved that. I thought that was fun as heck.
No, the racing games are always solid. You know, a good racing game. That reminds me of this was a magazine I bought on a plane ride back in 2003, and I only remember this because it's one of those magazines that just lay around forever, you know. And I bought it because I was big into baseball then, still am, but. And I read the whole darn thing, and then Dad asked if he could read that magazine, and it was a FHM for him magazine. Remember that, like Maxim?
Kind of, yeah.
It's like a Maxim, you know.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it had a few baseball players I really liked on the cover of it, and like 3 of the 4 dudes that they interviewed all said, "Well, I play 2K, whatever the equivalent of 2K was on PlayStation 2, and it helps me because it's so realistic." They could watch the spin of the ball, and it really helped them with their hand-eye coordination. And that was before, Nintendo Wii was swinging.
Yep.
But yeah, it helped them train their eyes to pick up the spin of the ball. So, it's just taking that experience to a whole nother level. And that takes me down another story where the whole reason John Madden started that empire is he wanted it to be a learning tool for players. He wanted it to be an easy way to turn on this quote-unquote video game and learn your position. Watch the whole field. Watch all 22 guys on the field. See how they move. See where you need to be and how you need to execute in order to.
That's why he started it.
That's why he started it.
I didn't know that.
And now it's a thing unto its own self. Like Madden.
Big,
it's huge.
That reminds me of something else, and I don't know whether these guys gained anything from it or not, but during COVID, NASCAR went full video game. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So they quit racing each other in real life, and they were racing each other on video games and televising it.
Yeah.
And those boys, it was so realistic that they were out there doing their thing, and people watched it and loved it.
Yeah, and they liked it too, and it was a nice little side gig. But
until one of them said something on one of the recordings that
you're not really allowed to talk like that anymore.
No.
But anyway, so then we get to the the internet connectivity and people playing against each other, and it totally changes the systems up.
The Xbox.
And now we're dealing with how kids interact with their friends. So it used to be if you lived in a neighborhood, obviously you would have to get out and you would have to go see your friends. You'd have to ride your bike down there and knock on the door, and what are they doing? Maybe you'll play some video games together at their house,
right?
But most likely you're out playing baseball or football or whatever. So it's totally changed that to where they can all connect now. So back to Joel, how often or how many of your friends, do the majority of your friends do that? Do you connect with the majority of your friends on internet video gaming, or is there a bunch of them that don't?
Yeah, like there's like a ton of people who my friends like just like talk to each other on like a video game. So there's this thing called crossing platforms. On Fortnite you can do that. That means like someone on a PlayStation can play with someone on Xbox. And so on most games you can't. So on like Fortnite, some people would just play that game to talk and stuff like that.
Because you're playing against each other, you have headphones on, and you're talking to each other the whole time.
Yeah, and obviously there's gonna be like those 2 people in your school who like aren't really allowed to play video games. They'll connect each other in real life, but that's pretty much it.
But what's the other way that you connect if people don't have headphones now?
Well, a lot of people FaceTime. Right?
Yeah.
At least I do that a lot.
So they just throw their phone down. It's on FaceTime.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can hear what the other person is saying.
Oh.
But they don't have the headphones on.
So they're not using
So
the
they have-
gaming system to connect. They're playing against each other on the gaming system.
Right.
But their audio and visual between each other is coming off of their cell
On
phones.
FaceTime. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
good
So there's that action going on. Sometimes I'm like, oh, who are you playing with? So-and-so. He doesn't have headphones. Okay.
Yeah,
You know?
because some of my friends, like, their headphones are either broke or they don't work for some reason. No more batteries, they're not charged, stuff like that. So we just call.
Does it ever, when you're playing those games and you guys are playing against each other and you're talking and stuff like that, does it ever create any trouble? Like, does anybody ever get mad at each other or something like that?
Oh, definitely. Like, if someone would say just jokingly, like, oh, you're bad, like, they'll just take that to another level and just get mad. And
Really?
we'll, like, argue about something completely off topic. So,
It snowballs.
So, well, and this was, I don't know what you call this, but this was an issue, I'd say, over 10 years ago with, like, the first wave of Call of Duties and Halo. This was big on Halo. Teabagging, right? You know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
And then always you would do that, and more times than not, or quite often, the person that was doing the teabagging shot the dude and was going over there teabagging the dead body, they'd drop an N-bomb. And it's like, and it became such a thing, PlayStation was trying to figure out a way, or Xbox was trying to figure out a way to, like, mute these people, you know, talking shit and using inappropriate language like that. And, I mean, you had all these kids, old adults, everyone just dropping that word and doing the teabagging move. And it's like, and my brother plays all these games quite often. He's a gamer, lifer gamer. And his theory is, and he's probably right, when you take that face-to-face out of it, then you can say whatever you want.
People
you
get, yeah.
You
People
can
get
be
brave.
a little brat, and then if someone's going to be a brat to you, you get to be a brat right back, and it just kind of snowballs into this, oh, we're connected. Yeah, not really. Not really. We're
And
not really connected.
And that's evident in so many things that we see on the internet,
Right.
with keyboard warriors or whatever.
Yeah,
like, you're hiding behind that wall.
Yeah, Twitter thumbs, you know.
You're not
pretty
looking
strong.
at someone face to face.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I remember
Well, I
is,
wanted to ask Joel if that's still a thing.
oh, is it?
Is it?
What is it? Oh.
They still use derogatory language after a kill shot or anything?
No, not really.
Nah,
People
Mom.
just
Nah, it's all clean.
because well, in Call of Duty, Black Ops 4, it's like a really small map. So if you were to do that, what would happen is you'd probably get killed 5 seconds after you do something like that. But people in, like, Fortnite, they do kind of curse, like, once they leave, or no, like, once they die. So Fortnite, like, put in a game chat and a party channel. If you go in the party, no one can access it except for you
Oh, so that's
and
their
people in
answer
your
to it.
lobby.
Okay.
But if you're in game channel, all the people that you're playing with that you don't know, like, can hear you when you talk.
So you normally are in the private chats,
The party.
Yeah.
the party. But even before this, I remember before he had headphones, correct me if I'm wrong, we would make him just do the audio through the TV. So then I could hear what other kids were saying. So then I was, and then he could speak back. But
Yeah.
I'm like, just remember there's moms on the other side too that are listening to you. So, like, watch your language, talk like you normally would, like you're in school. I'm just
Fortnite?
saying.
Yeah.
Well,
on
well,
any of the games.
Yeah.
I remember when I did that, but I did have my headphones in. So we'd turn the volume up on the TV
So you could do
so
both.
you could hear it. And
Yes.
then one day I was just like, I don't really want to do this anymore. So then I turned the TV volume down
Yes.
so you couldn't hear. And then you were like,
Right,
I
but-
don't really like that. But then you just let it go.
But then we also talked about you had it long enough that we saw that his behavior was pretty decent. There were a couple times I would, be like, "Excuse me, really? Is that how you're gonna talk?"
That's gamer
But-
culture. That's gamer culture.
Like the other day, like I got really mad
Right.
that I died. So I screamed. But I woke up my sister.
Yeah.
on accident.
So he got in trouble for that.
Was it John Elway? Did John Elway kill you?
No.
He's the one that got me in trouble.
It's
Yeah.
like this certain game that it's in Fortnite, but or it's like, I don't know, like I fell all the way to the bottom, like you're trying to climb all the way to the top,
Yeah.
but then I fell. Then
Oh, I heard screaming, and I was like, "Are you okay?" And then he was like, and I'm like, "No, do not scream like that, because then when you're actually hurt, I'm not gonna come."
Oh, geez.
I think all the things that we've talked about from when we were kids and the stuff that we remember. It sounds like a lot of fun, and it's all good.
Yeah.
But it's not all good, and that's the fact.
Too
'cause
much of it.
There's a lot of things that can happen with it, and like Morgan talked about, we pay fairly close attention to what Joel does. I'm not going to say that we're sitting there watching every
No, absolutely
minute
not.
or whatever, but our house is open enough that, well, number one, we don't allow him to have it in his bedroom with the door closed, and he doesn't have it in his bedroom at all. So where he does play, we hear. And like you said, we used to hear what everyone else was saying,
Yes.
but now we just basically hear what he's saying. And there's been plenty of times, and Joel, like, I've heard you doing something, and I'll come down there and I'll be like, knock it off, man. It's not how you talk. That's not how it works. Like, you're getting over crazy and yelling and all these kinds of things, So the point is that I think there's a lot of good that can be had from these things. But like we've talked about with a lot of different things, parents have to be involved. You have to have
That's just it. Yeah.
some understanding of what's going on. They can't just have free reign.
Yeah. Now, when he was cussing and stuff, were you playing Mario Kart? Because I'll give you a pass if you were playing Mario Kart.
No.
Okay.
I'm too good at Mario Kart.
Oh, here we go. All right. So we just introduced Ozzy to Nintendo Wii.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we ended up with, don't ask me how, it just kind of happened, but we have like every single game ever made on any Nintendo or Sega Genesis console ever on it. So you can play all those old school games.
Yep.
And then we also got the steering wheels for all the Mario Karts.
Okay.
And if you think you're that good, come on down.
Deal.
All right. I mean, I know Ozzy's not that good, and his cousin, who plays a lot more games than he does, when he gets out the old school Wii, and isn't that weird saying the Wii's old?
Right.
He'd just mop her up, and she gets mad, just like Mario Kart's supposed to be.
There's so many of those games, and I think that's one of them that are like truly wholesome. Like, they're just fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're blasting people, but you're blasting with mushrooms and stuff.
yeah.
And that's like
Yeah.
you guys will play. They'll bring the Switch upstairs and like race each other.
Yeah, and I'll always beat them 9
Green.
times out of 10.
That's not true.
most
Yes,
of
it
the time.
is.
green shells, the red shells, the blue shells.
Yeah.
Oh.
All that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. I mean, that's fun. Those things are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the shooting games and stuff are fun too.
Yeah.
But they're kind of one of those things, again, like that you got to kind of do in moderation.
Yeah, like 007 was big, I think,
Yeah.
back in our day.
Yeah.
A lot of people played, what was that, GoldenEye?
Yeah. Mhm.
That was
Yep.
a big thing. Siphon Filter. I played a lot of Siphon Filter.
Oh, I have not
on
heard
the
of
old-
that.
on the old PlayStation. But I didn't play a lot of games, but the games I did play, like I was just infatuated with. I had to beat them. I had to get into it. So
And it's kind of cool. Like, a lot of that old school stuff's coming back around. Like, the old gaming systems are becoming fun again.
oh yeah. Well,
Gaining steam.
did you guys go to the Super Mario Brothers movie?
No.
We watched
rent-
it. Yeah,
we rented it.
Yeah.
No, we bought it
Yeah. At,
on Prime.
Bought on
Prime,
Prime.
yeah.
Nice.
But I haven't seen it.
I thought it was
You guys
fantastic.
watched it?
Really? You
You know,
haven't seen it?
I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but I thought they did
Yeah,
such
I
a good
saw
job. When you think about from 1985 to today and all the stories that Nintendo has to tell, I thought they did just a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's fun. And the arcade games are a blast,
Yeah.
And you're starting to see more and more, like in downtown areas, like new
They're coming
arcades
back.
popping
Yep.
up.
Yep. They're
Those
coming
are
back.
fun. We've
Yeah.
done that before as an adult. Like
Yeah.
just go into an arcade and
I took Ozzy and his buddy to an arcade before Monster Trucks
okay.
over in Lincoln.
Yeah.
And There's this really cool jet one where they had the fans blowing on you, and the seats are doing this and going back and forth. It was pretty cool.
Well, I guess that's kind of like Dave and Buster's. He's had a couple birthday parties there.
Oh yeah,
That's fun.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think there's something to be said about video games and it desensitizing us to violence.
Yep.
I do think that's a real story, and that's where you have to have a grip on it, and that can't be your only thing you do.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like it's just like anything. You got to have a balance to it and an understanding to it, and don't let it consume you.
Yeah, and the amount of time you're spending doing it. I mean, it just cannot be an all-day thing,
Absolutely. That's my bottom line on this conversation is that I think there's a lot of fun to be had with these things.
Right.
Fun in moderation, understanding the difference between real life and video games, and keeping that focus on the fact that there's a lot of other things to do too.
Yeah.
So do this sometimes, have fun with it, but that's not going to be your life. And also what we talked about a long time ago, because we struggled, I think like most parents do, to make that decision of, we're going to put the video game console in the house.
Right.
Because a lot of them are, it's really vilified. It's like, this is a really bad thing for kids, on and on.
Yeah.
And the decision that we made was based on the fact that he's going to go over to his buddy's house, and one of his buddies is going to have it, and they're going to play it. Mm-hmm. So do we want to have it in our own house where we can see, we can watch, we can monitor, we can have some kind of level of control? Or do we just want the neighbors to have that control?
It's like one of the best quotes I've ever heard from Homer Simpson. Well, it's better you learn it from me now than from your parents when you're ready.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, because what we have seen is some of his friends that don't have it, when they come over, that's all they want to do.
Sure. Sure.
Right? Because they're just not interested in it, or they're interested in it so much that that's all they want to do. And sometimes he's like, I don't even want to have them over because like that's all they want to do.
Right.
That's
they
a
don't
huge
want to
part
go
of
outside. They don't want to go do something else because he's the kid that does have it. So I can see both sides, but the main thing was like, let's have it at our house. We'll be able to monitor it.
Well, there was that, and there was, to the point that you're making, the curiosity.
Yeah.
We wanted to kill the curiosity. We didn't want it to be something that was like, like in his mind or whatever, oh my gosh, what is this thing? Like, I just have to figure it out. Like, okay, let's expose you to it, and you can actually see what it is and figure out.
You also don't want to be a hypocrit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you
for
had
sure.
video
Yeah.
games
Yes,
growing up.
you had it too.
And you
Right.
turned out great, Ben.
Oh, I'm
You're
awesome.
the best.
I'm
so,
awesome, yeah.
See, it didn't hurt me.
Right. Yeah.
But
That's true.
You probably don't remember this, but years and years ago, you were telling me about a wreck you had on a motorcycle down on the river, one of your dirt bikes. And you go, that's why I'm never going to get Joel a dirt bike.
Really? I said that?
Yeah, you did. And I'm like-
Really?
and I was so mad at you. I'm like, that's pretty shitty.
Yeah, well, now he's got a few.
Yeah, he does. So I'm like, good for
I
you,
can't
Ben.
believe that he said that.
Yeah, well, he was
That's
talking about
funny.
a bad wreck and how it screwed up his back and all this
I
stuff.
thought you'd be
Yeah.
the last one to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's possible.
'Cause,
Well, I mean,
he
we do
has-
actually care about our kids, Joel. Like, we do want to keep you safe and all
Yeah.
this other stuff.
Yes.
But, at the end of the day, it's like, man, that was so much fun. I can't
Yep.
deprime my kid of that.
Right.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? So,
Yeah.
And just be smart about it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And understand that, eventually something's going to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Then you deal with it.
That's right. There you go.
But don't you think Joel goes in phases? Like he'll be all about it, his gaming stuff, and then not. Have you seen that all with Ozzy since it's somewhat new, or is he bugging you to play daily now?
No, he really likes nature and bugs and mud and all that stuff.
Okay.
So that's really
So
good.
he's outside.
Yep, and he loves our pool.
Yeah.
But what I don't like is how much he likes YouTube. I can't stand that. You know what I mean?
Okay, so he's more on to YouTube. Yeah.
Especially just watching grown-up adults dressed up as children acting like kids. Like that's a weird sub thing, and it's Blippy. I mean, that's what Blippy is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think the guy should be. He could.
I don't
know.
even
I don't
know who
like.
that
I don't like the
is.
guy.
Yeah, he's like, yeah.
And that's a whole nother thing with this whole gaming conversation is the guys that are on YouTube just playing games. Joel's watched them before.
Oh, sure.
You're just sitting there watching play games.
Ozzy came back. He fired back one time because I was upset with him watching a guy playing video games again. I'm like, you play the video games, you figure it out. And he goes, if I wouldn't watch these and figure out the codes, then I couldn't tell Mom how to play it and beat the level.
Oh.
And then Mom's like, he did help me beat that last level. God.
And then
So it's like us reading the magazines.
That's what I was going to say. You rewind to that.
Yeah, it's like, you might have won this round, Ozzy, but I'm going to get you back.
Yeah.
That's
Man,
funny.
that's funny. Well, man, I think that's all I got. It was just kind of a fun journey to think about what we did when we were kids and what Joel's doing now and your kids. And
Yep. And there is a really cool documentary about the history of video games on Netflix right now. It's really cool.
Oh, have
It's
we
like-
seen that?
It's like
which one is it? I'm
it's
not
like
sure.
Player One or Level Up, something like that.
Yeah. I think
Have you
it's
seen it?
Level Up or something. I haven't watched it, but
It's really cool. It does a neat job of starting with the basics, the old Activision or whatever that was, and then
Really?
going to the arcade style, and then how Nintendo and Sega really took over in their arms race. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I'll check it
Okay.
out.
Do you have anything else to add?
no, I don't think so.
Ooh, I do.
Oh,
That kind of reminded me, is like the Oculus kind of part of a gaming?
well, a new
eventually.
one.
Can you play against somebody when you have the virtual reality stuff on?
Oh,
Do you know?
Oh yeah. What was it? The metaverse.
Mm-hmm.
That yeah. So you can, but it's not like an actual game though. It's kind of like It's like just like a room with like it looks like a house where you can just talk to people in it.
Okay. I
I
just
mean,
didn't.
that's all that I've seen on like YouTube because I've never like
You don't have one.
You don't have it.
Yeah.
I
I
just
don't
didn't know
have,
if that
like,
goes
the-
down in the category as video games.
Well, I'm sure you could like play like games with your friends and talk to them on it, but I've never seen that. So
I think that
that's my
VR
opinion.
and that AR and all that, that's definitely the next iteration of,
Is it?
you know, the
Okay,
video
you think
games.
this
That's
is where
coming.
this is all going?
Oh yeah, what was
That's what's
that
coming.
movie that we always used to watch?
Ready Player One.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one that.
That's a
yeah.
really good.
Have you seen
one.
that one, Andy?
I have not.
You should watch
You
it.
should.
Okay.
It is a really
you guys
good
go
one.
get your Netflix on with that documentary, and I'll
Okay.
watch Player One. Yeah.
Okay.
Here we go. We got our assignments. Real quick, everybody's favorite video game. Joel.
Probably Call of Duty, Black
All
Ops
right.
4.
There you go. Morgan?
The only one that I can remember playing was Sonic the Hedgehog.
Okay, that's a good one.
That
That's
was a fun
iconic.
one.
Yeah.
That was fun. My favorite one, I think, and I didn't even talk about it today, would be Ninja Turtles.
2.
Oh.
Ninja Turtles 2.
I don't even remember if it was a 2. I think it was just an original Ninja Turtles.
You could play it on the arcade,
I thought that was
Yep.
just
Right?
a movie.
and
Yep.
you started with Rocksteady, then you beat Bebop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yep.
Okay, that's Ninja
Yep.
Turtles 2.
And you were just
Ooh.
like
Yeah.
it was just like left to right. Like you were just
Yeah.
walking down the thing, you're
You could-
jumping, you're throwing swords at people,
You
you're
could be all 4.
yeah.
Yep.
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 That was
Yep.
my favorite one.
Oh man. That
So
was-
he took yours?
he took mine. Totally took
You
mine.
both
I'll
loved
go-
Ninja Turtles.
I'll go with Captain Skyhawk then. That'll be a second.
A close second for me would be NBA Jam. I love that.
Oh yeah, that's
There's a mobile
So much
game
fun.
on that. I used to play it on my iPad.
Of what?
It's just like, NBA Jam.
game. Oh yeah.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
2 people on a team, a 2v2, and you like all the teams in the NBA.
yeah.
You and I have played NBA Jam on the old system on Sega, and I stomp you every time. And you didn't want to play it anymore because I just would whoop
We
you.
played like 4 times.
I had all the tricks. I could grab the ball before you even scored everything. And you
You'll
were-
Yeah,
have to
because you
get
had
it
those
out.
magazines.
you were so mad at me.
Where are the magazines at,
You
Dad?
got to share the codes with him, and then maybe he can keep up.
I'm never
Way.
gonna
yeah.
gonna
I was
share.
gonna say no. You got to figure that stuff out.
And you probably couldn't even say the codes. You would just have to he would have to watch your thumbs and your
Yeah.
fingers. Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny. Good
All right.
chat. Good
Yeah.
chat,
Cool.
boys.
This was fun.
Thanks
That
for
was
coming
fun.
on, Joel.
Yeah,
It was
All
fun,
right.
man.
it was fun.
I'll have you on again. I'm sure there's some other things we could talk about.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, cool.
Peace.
We'll check you guys later.
Later.